Practice test chapter 2, which will be a pretty long test. Not super difficult because it's all review, but it's pretty long. So, domain is your x value. So when you're doing x values, how far left to how far right you go. So my farthest left, so my -3 is where my x is. That's less than or equal to my x because x is in between these two numbers. And my farthest right to go would be 9. Then I have my range. It's how far down you go. So this is your y value. You're looking at your y to how far up you go. So my furthest down I go is -3. And again, y is going in between these because it's everywhere in between. And the highest up I go is 7. And then it's asking, is it a function? So if I do my vertical line test, I see it goes to be more than 1 point. So no, this is not a function. It says stop. It says add an order pair to make this a function. So it remains a function. So first I have to look at my x values. 14, 5, 3, 11. Any number as long as my x value is not that. So I'm going to put 10. Again, as long as you don't have a number in the x value that's 14, 5, 3, or 11, it's correct. And let's say -2. It doesn't really matter. Next one, is this a function? Remember, you're always just looking at your x values. So since this 5 repeats more than once, this is a no. This is not a function. You evaluate -1. So if you put -1 to your equation, this is where you have to be careful. Make sure you put parentheses around the -1 and the squared is on the outside. You want to make sure to put -1 in both of those. And if you were to solve that, so -1 squared is a +1 times 2, then you're actually adding 3, you would get 5. You don't have to write it as an ordered pair, but you could if you wanted to. Next one, when I'm writing my function rule. This is just for 1 month. It's talking for 1 month. It costs $18 for the month, and then $1.50 per rental. So this is a function rule, so that's why I have the function of x. 18 is not going to change. So I have $18 plus it's cost $1.50 per rental. Then it's saying, what if you rented 11 movies? Now, in today's day and age, this is kind of be expensive for a movie rental place. Maybe not. I don't know. So $34.50. First one, write in slope-intercept form. So the first thing you have to do, number 1, is find the slope. Remember, it's the difference of y's. So I'm going to put this y minus my other y, y1. And then I'm going to have this x, since that y went first, this x has to go first. There's a bell. So this becomes 3, 5 minus 2 is 3. -5 minus 10 would give me -15, which is the same thing as -1/5. Now it does not matter which point you use. I could use this point, or I could use this point. I'm personally going to use this point. I don't know, just because. In my second part, I'm going to write in my point slope formula. So y minus my y1 is 5 equals the slope I found, and then x minus my x1. This becomes plus plus. So I'm going to distribute this in. Y minus 5 is equal to -1/5 x minus 1. Add the 5 over, and I would get as my final answer, y is equal to -1/5 x plus 4. What is the equation of this? So first I'm looking at my y-intercept right here. That's going down 4, so my b is -4. If I look at my slope, it's rise over run. I go up 2, and I go over 3. So my slope is 2/3. So it's y equals my slope times x minus 4. Question 8. Whoopsies. Question 8. Graph, and you must have at least 2 points. There's 2 ways that you can do this. I'm going to actually find what the y is equal to instead of finding intercepts. So I'm going to solve for y. So first thing I'm going to subtract. Do not forget that this is subtracting. That should be negative. That stays a +8. And then divide by -2. So when I divide this by -2, my equation becomes a +3/2 x minus 4. So plot my y-intercept first. And then up 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. You could just do these 2 points. I personally just like to have more than 2 points. should be a straight line. It should go on, and make sure you have arrows at the end. So here, what's the equation slope-intercept? So that's y equals mx plus b. That goes through that point and is parallel to this. So first I'm going to solve for y for my equation. So this would be negative x minus 2. I only care about my slope. I have to think, if it's parallel, what's my slope going to be? Parallel means same slope. So my slope will still be negative 7. So I'm going to use my y minus y1 equals my slope. X minus x1. Bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. So I have y minus 6 is equal to negative 7x. This becomes minus 28, and then add 6. Y is equal to negative 7x minus 22. So it's kind of like the same thing from the next one, except it's perpendicular to. So if I'm going to first solve for y, I'm going to subtract my x of negative 2y is equal to negative x plus 6. Divide by negative 2. Remember, everything has to be divided by negative 2. So my original equation that I want perpendicular to, negative or negative becomes a positive, is this. So I have to think, what's my slope? My slope here is 1/2. So think, what is perpendicular to that? It's opposite reciprocal. So my slope will be negative 2. So y minus y1 equals negative 2. X minus x1. Distribute the negative 2, and you get plus 12 minus 5. Overall answer, y equals negative 2x plus 7. So this next one, you're going to have to use your graphing calculator. You do not have to change your year, because it does not tell you to change your year. So your L1 would be this row. Your L2 will be this row. You would get a different equation if you change this to 0. You do not have to change this to 0. So L1 is 1980, 1985, 1990, and so on. So if you put that in your calculator, so you should make sure you put this in your calculator. I want 4 decimal spots. So 296x minus, I'm going to write it up here, 58074. That's a 6.6667. That's not the best. When you do this on the test, you're going to do it so much nicer than I did. So the first one's saying, what would you expect to get in the year 2019? You have to think, is that my input? Is that my output? Here's my input. That was my L1. So I'm going to put 296 times 2019 and subtract that whole thing, and you get roughly about 16,877 members. When could you expect to have that many members? Again, you have to think, is that my input, my output? That's my output. So I have to put my equation equal to that. So first you would add over your 580,746 and then divide by 296, and I would accept either the year 2012 or 2013. So graphing this, first thing I notice is I see absolute values, so it's going to be a V. So my vertex here, this is going to move it to the left 2, this is going to move it down 1. So left 2, down 1 is my vertex. My A value is 3, so that's like 3 over 1. So left 2, down 1, that's my vertex, and I go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. Again, it should be a V, so go up 3 over 1 on the left-hand side as well. When I look at this, how far left do I go? Forever. How far right do I go? Forever. Domain is all real numbers. My range is always dealing with my y. So my y value right here at my vertex is a negative 1. You have to think, is my graph above this? Is my graph below it? Is y getting larger or is y getting smaller? Y is getting larger and larger and larger. So y is greater than or equal to negative 1. And the next one, what is my transformation in words? Right here, negative is going to reflect. The 2 will be a vertical stretch of 2. This 1 moves it to the left. That's F. 1. And this 5 moves it up 5. So what would it look like if you had this information? Well, vertical and compressed, that's my A. Shift units left, that will be my h, and this is my k. So y is equal to my a, then inside is my h. So if it's moving left, remember it's always opposite, so it should say plus 2. And by 2, I actually mean 3. I gotcha. And then up 4, up and away. And by up 4, I actually mean down 4, and this should be subtraction. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. So first thing we have to do is subtract the x over. So we have negative 2/3 x plus y equals negative 1/5. Now here you want to find the largest multiplier between 3 and 5 so that we can get rid of this fraction. So the largest multiplier would be multiplying by 15. So if I multiply each one of these by 15, this would be a negative 10x plus 15y equals negative 3. Decimals, same type of thing. Subtract your x over. Look at the decimal location. And in my decimal location, the highest spot is my 10th spot. So I'm going to multiply the whole shebang by 10. Give me negative 20x minus 53y equals 13. Write out my equation. First thing you always want to do is figure out what your v is, because that's your hk. So that point right there would be negative 5. Actually, I'm going to do it up here. Negative 5 and a negative 2. When I'm finding my slope from your vertex, I go up 2 and go to the right. I always use the right. So my a is 2/3. I move to the left 5, so that would be plus 5. And by parentheses, I mean absolute values. And I move down 2. Here I have to get my y by itself first, so I'm going to subtract the y. So if I subtract the y, I would have negative absolute value, and then actually add the y, sorry. I'm going to rewrite this so the y is on the left-hand side. Again, this is pointing to the y, so I have to make sure it's pointing to the y. And my negative x minus 1, and then plus 6. My a here is a negative 1. My vertex here is a positive 1 because I move to the right 1, and I move up 6. So if I plot that first, right 1, up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my slope is down 1 over 1. And then I look at my inequality symbol, and if there's a line underneath, which there is, that means it's or equal to, so it should be solid line. It says y is less than. Y is getting smaller. So that means I shade below the line. Here, if I get the y by itself, I know it's going to be linear because I do not see a absolute value. So I subtract 3 and then divide by 2. Remember, you want to divide each one by 2. Y is less than negative 3/2 minus 3. So my y-intercept is a negative 3, and I'm going to go down 3 to the right 2, or else I could go up 3 to the left 2. When I look at my inequality, there's no line there, so that means it's going to be dotted because it's not equal to. And this says it's less than. So it's less than, I'm shading below my line. And the last two, writing my actual equations. So when looking at this, my b here is going to be 6. And I give you these 2 dots. So if you count, how much do I go up? I go up 6 and to the right, so it's going to be positive 7. So my m is 6/7. I'm going to leave a little space, so it's m x plus b. Now it's shaded above the line, so that means y is getting larger. My line is solid, so it should be or equal to. And the last one, first finding my vertex. My vertex here is a negative 4 and a negative 4. And then here's the next point, is a 2, so I go up 2 over 2. That's the same thing as 1. So again, my a here is 1. You don't have to have that 1 there, but you sure can if you want. It's always opposite inside, so this should be plus 4 because it's moving left 4, and then down 4 would be negative 4. I'm shading below the line, so y is getting smaller, so it's less than, and it's dotted, so it's not or equal to. And there you have it. So easy. Everyone is going to get A on this test, and it's going to be amazing. You have a great, grand, wonderful time of your life right now.